Hello, everybody, and welcome to Crimes of Our Times Live. I'm filmmaker author John Borowski, coming to you from the Waterfront Production Studios in Chicago, Illinois. You may have seen my works on screen, such as Albert Fish, and in books such as the upcoming Panzram at Leavenworth. Coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky. My co-host on today's show is artist Jeff Gaither, discussing art for the criminally insane. Welcome, Jeff.
How's it going?
Good. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, well, it's great. I mean, I've been waiting for it for months.
Yeah, this has been a great time, and we first met, I think we first met at the crime scene convention in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think it was with the Murder Junkies, wasn't it?
Murder Junkies, yeah. Steve Gianangelo was there, and yeah, and I'm still friends with, everybody that we met there, again, like minds, are stick together in a sense. And like we were talking before, I find it interesting. How did you come up with that name, Art for the Criminally Insane? Because, if no one knows, I mean, everybody probably knows Jeff Gaither, but I'm telling you, artworks for over 300 plus album covers, over 2,500 fanzines, posters, clothing, skateboards, anything you can think of. Jeff Gaither's created art for it. Even your glass. He's got his own glass he's holding right now. Misfits. Look at this. Misfits, Guns N' Roses, Insane Clown Posse. This guy's a legend. So thank you so much, Jeff, for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me on here. Yeah.
So what's that? What is that Art for the Criminally Insane?
Well, I thought it would sound cool on my website when I had a website a long time ago. Actually, I'm redoing my website now, and that's taken me forever. But I just thought that somebody would have to be crazy to like my artwork because it was just insane artwork. And so I thought, criminally insane. And then, of course, I've read serial killer books and stuff like that. So I thought, put both of them together, Art for the Criminally Insane. And it stuck. It was on, on my website. And the website's been down for a long time. And even when it was up, I didn't have that on there. People just associate that with me. So I continue to put it on business cards and, it really don't mean that much. It's just something I did for the fun of it.
Oh, I think it's a cool name, and right, because that's the thing, I was doing some last minute trying to look up, some stuff, and I noticed that your site now is some kind of a poker site. I go to jeffgaither.com. It's like,
yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I mean, I have no idea.
It's weird how, sometimes, these companies, they buy these sites and everything, but either way, I mean, so many people know your stuff and you're out there and, what do you got into this stuff, kind of like I did. You blame it on your aunt because your aunt took you to all these horror films when you were a kid. My sister did that to me, Universal horror films. Then I started getting into slashers. So talk to me about, your beginnings and what your favorite horror films are and how you got into, the beginnings of horror. How did that?
Well, basically it was like my aunt, which you was talking about, and my mom, both of them were into Actors Theater of Louisville. They both drew and painted, and they both loved horror a lot. And basically what they would do is they would take me to see movies, which I've seen The Exorcist with my aunt the first time. I've seen Dawn of the Dead the first time with my aunt. My aunt's really the big influence. My mom was too, but my aunt was really the big one. She used to bring me Famous Monster magazine, and I still have some of her art today. And the way some of the movies that I like are basically the ones that she took me to. The Exorcist, Dawn of the Dead, The Beyond. I mean, there's tons of movies I love. I mean, I wish I could unsee them so I could see them again.
Wouldn't that be great, to see them again? I always think that too, because when we saw these things for the first time, I guess today's the anniversary of The Thing when that first came out. I remember I went to the Norwich Theater here in the suburbs and I snuck in and I saw The Thing with I think alone or with my friend. Was that 82 maybe? I was like 10, I think. So
But that was the remake.
Yeah, that was the remake, and then I tried to sneak into another theater to see Nightmare on Elm Street 2 because, back then they were strict. And, I tried to sneak in with another family, and the theater owner was standing there with his arms, and he knew when I went up to buy a ticket. I was like, oh, damn it. I didn't see that at that time, But, it was a different age back then. We had to search for things. Remember that? Like if we wanted records or VHS, we had to search for this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did the same thing, sneak into a movie after you watched a movie. You would sneak in to watch. You missed the previews and stuff, but
hey, as long as you get into an R-rated movie, that's all that matters. So let's see. Hi, Kevin. How are you? Eric asked, did you do Appetite for Destruction for Guns N' Roses? What did you do for them?
Well, that was Robert Williams that did the original one. They took that off and put the other one on that they're all know about now. I did headbands, posters, stickers, tour books. Let's see, mirror backs, patches. I did 2 tour shirts. And that's all I can think of right now. I did a lot of stuff for them. I had a manager at the time, and he got me all the name jobs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like Van Halen. I'm trying to think of all the different ones, but I sort of let him go, and I missed out on getting other big names. But the only reason I did was because I didn't really like working with somebody that did cocaine and would come to my house and his nose was bleeding and shit. And then later on, the way you work with an agent is you pay them their part. And at the time, my wife was taking care of the bills and stuff. And I come home and somehow it got turned around. He was taking the money and paying us. And the last job I did for him, I think was Testament. And we got the artwork back and that was it. He said that was payment. Me getting my artwork back was payment? I don't think so. So that was it for that. So, I mean, I didn't really get any big names, but I've got a few since then, But I just didn't like working with somebody that had their mind on a cocaine or whatever the fuck he was doing.
Yeah, and that's the double-edged sword, isn't it? That's, as artists, sometimes we want to work with some of these big names, but what comes with that? It might not be something that, is pleasurable or so, like for instance, I finished laying out my next book, the book on Carl Panzram. And, I loved working with these old school guys who are in their 60s and 70s. I told them the book was coming out. You guys, are part of it. All they said was great. Awesome. Yeah, we love it. Good work. We're excited for you, but when I talk to some, I've worked with all other people, younger people, and they're like, what do I get out of this? When are you going to give it to me? I want everything. Why didn't you, put my name when you advertise? It's like, wow. And I'm sure you've got a lot of those horror stories too.
But on the other end of it, you get where people want you to do artwork, and then they'll say, we'll give you full credit for it. I mean, you wouldn't say that to a plumber or right. Somebody else. You know what I mean? That's just the opposite end of that. I mean, I do a job and I want to get paid for it. I don't want to sound like a capitalist or anything, but this is what I do for a living. I mean, when I was younger, I did it for fun, and I still do it for fun. I love my art, and I love doing art for people, but I like getting paid because I like to eat.
I know, and right, you're right, but that's the thing. People think, well, yeah, if you're drawing, if you're painting, if you're an artist, that's art. It's for fun, you don't need to make money, but they don't realize you're right. I mean, it's one story when you're straight out of college, maybe, okay, or out of school and say, hey, I'll do this to get a little credit or to get involved. But, after 5, 10, 20 years, you're like, okay, no, it ain't going to happen that way, and you're right. I mean, we're professionals and we should be seen that way. But, I don't know how it is for you, but, like in the film and music, and well, probably you with the music industry, it's ego driven, or at least the film industry is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've done it for over 40 years, and I've run into everything, believe me.
Oh yeah, I know. We've talked about those stories, where people would steal your artwork, and I mean, and it's just a shame, I mean, people should just be original, do their own thing, but you've also had a lot of great experiences too. I mean, like I said, your stuff has been on shirts and everywhere. I mean, anything you could think of. I mean, I've seen your art on, and it's been great, just knowing you. And then how did you get into the serial killer stuff?
Basically, I read lots of books. I've got probably, I don't know, 600 serial killer books. And reading those, basically, I've started to think about writing serial killers. But uh, I had this thing that I did for Screw Magazine. You ever heard of Screw Magazine?
Yeah.
I did 3 covers for them, and I knew the guy that worked in the art department. And this is sort of like 2 stories at once. I got a little fly that's flying around me that's driving me nuts. But what was I saying? Oh, about the Screw Magazine. I'm trying to think. Let's see. I had I did the covers for them, and basically I got paid, and I had my address in the magazine for an ad. Okay, and so I lived in an apartment on the 3rd floor. The guy that I knew, he took all the stuff that hit the floor, basically that didn't make it in the magazine, put it in a package, and mailed it to me. Okay, so I come home one day and my mailbox is busted open, and all of this pornographic shit is on the floor, on the 2nd floor, and on the 3rd floor. And it's like women are tied to rocking horses, all kinds of crazy shit. You know what I mean? It's for anybody to see. So I pick it all up, go upstairs, and I call the police to tell them that somebody broke into my mailbox. Well, they came to my house to take a report, and some of the stuff was laying out just a little bit, and the cop like took his hand and moved it all around and was like, "What is all of this stuff?" And so I had to explain it to him, and he was like, "Well, I suggest that you get a oh shit, what's it called?
Oh, like a PO box or something?
Yeah, a PO box." He suggested to get a PO box, and I did, of course. And one day we were out riding around, and I was like, "Let's go check the PO box." And so when I opened it up, I could read. It said John Wayne Gacy,
Really?
and I grabbed it, I pulled it out, and held it up, sort of like I was touching something stinky because I'd never wrote anybody, and I didn't have any contact with any serial killers or anything. And I'm thinking, I'm holding a letter from John Wayne Gacy, and he apparently seen the ad that was in Screw Magazine and wanted to know about artwork. And so I wrote him, and the next thing is I'm writing him, and I wrote him for like 5 years, and I wrote him all the way up until he was executed. And I mean, I've got like you can tell, I've got a lot of stuff from him. I mean, I kept all of the letters, the envelopes,
Wow.
and weird stuff that he would send me, like articles about him. I'm trying to get where you can see them. Articles or jokes that would go around the prison. He would
Oh,
send,
wow.
yeah. I mean, it was just tons of stuff. And of course, he like sent me a questionnaire, which at first he did, and so I didn't answer it, and I sent him back a questionnaire, and he answered mine, so I answered his.
That's
He,
interesting because, usually someone has to reach out to a serial killer. It's very rare that they'll reach out to you.
well, I mean, shit happens to me that's unusual. You know what I mean? That's all I can say.
That's
But
hilarious. But what exactly was he asking you about your art or like tips? Because, obviously he did his art. I don't know if he was still doing it at that time when you were writing them, but if you could call it art.
from what I recall, it was like tips on art, and he wanted to see if I could send him photocopies of my art. And that was it. I mean, I sent it to him and told him that I was into serial killers and stuff, and he was like, Oh, great. Can you come up and visit me? I won't try to fuck you.
At least he gave you that warning.
Yeah.
And that's, there's that whole weird Jason Moss thing, which, I still don't believe happened that way. I mean, do you believe that, because I don't think that, the Illinois officials would have let, a young man in a room alone, unsupervised with this guy, because I interviewed one of the ex-jail guards at Menard, and they said, even when Gacy faked a heart attack, it was like they were taking the president to the hospital, SWAT teams and everyone, because they don't want anything, to happen to this guy or him to do anything, and it would come back to them. So that whole Jason Moss thing, I was always, I thought he just wrote a book to kind of,
Yeah, I would agree. But I was wanting to tell you, he sent me, other than that stuff, he sent me the basic like birthday cards and Christmas cards, and he sent me a handmade Christmas cards. I showed it to you.
Yes, I remember when I visited you last year, you showed that to me. You've got an amazing collection of not just serial killer, artifacts, of, autographs, and you've got so much amazing stuff. It's just insane. I love it all. Eric was asking, was that Guccione or Flint's magazine, that the magazine that you mentioned? Was that Larry Flint?
That who put it out?
Yeah.
Um,
Do you remember?
I don't really remember.
No.
It was,
Because what's interesting is that I interviewed Mike Albrecht, which was one of the detectives, that arrested Gacy and took his confession. And Mike Albrecht showed me an artwork that Gacy did of Kozenzak, the lieutenant on the case in Des Plaines. And what Gacy did was he painted a jackass and put Kozenzak's face at where the ass was. But, he got that from Hustler magazine, because Larry Flint would do Asshole of the Year. And so that's where he got it from, and I thought, I didn't know that until, I made that connection and saw, and I was thinking, where the hell did he get that from? And then I, discovered it. Believe me, I know way too much about Gacy. But who else? Did you write any other killers?
Well, I wrote a few. I wrote Manson, and he wrote me back, sent a postcard, and then I never heard from him again. I wrote Richard Ramirez, and he was sort of a weird one. I mean, he was weird and not weird at the same time. He talked about Batman movies and different movies he liked to see, and he wanted me to take pictures. Well, he asked me first, "Do you ever go to like flea markets?" That was one letter, just in the letter, and I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I used to love to go to flea markets. Can you take some pictures for me?" I'm like, "Well, sure, I'll take pictures in flea markets for you." The next letter, he's like, "Can you take pictures of women's feet for me?"
That's what I heard. I heard all he would want to talk about is his foot fetish and AC/DC, and
He never said
just
about
lame.
AC/DC to me.
That's not even interesting. It's just lame, right?
Weird, weird. But the thing I was going to say about Gacy that I didn't get a chance to say is all those years that I wrote him, I never once thought about asking for artwork until he was dead. Then I thought, oh man, I should have hit him up for some painting. I probably would have got it free. Now back to Ramirez. I did ask him for artwork, and I got a drawing of Daffy Duck. So I have a Daffy Duck done by Richard Ramirez. I asked him what he did with the eyes.
Huh. That's so weird. I thought you meant on the drawing. That's funny. That's a good one. But that's the thing when you're at that time, back whatever it was in the 90s or whenever you were writing Gacy, I'm sure you didn't even think about that at that time, like asking for artwork.
Yeah, it just never crossed my mind. I don't know why. Maybe it was the first one. Maybe it was the fact that I didn't really know about murder memorabilia or anything like that. But very bizarre that I didn't ask. I mean, I wish I would have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you've got a great collection there, what you have, and then you also did, this, when did you publish this, the Supernaut
That,
coloring book? This was pretty
thank
cool.
you. That was about probably about three years ago, somewhere around there. It was my first coloring book I published.
Yeah, this is awesome because I'm starting to color for, my stress levels, and I'm going to scan these and color them. I
Oh,
mean, these are
that's funny.
amazing.
That picture right there. See how big it is? I,
It's huge.
yeah. Well, let me show you. This is the original. I'm gonna have to back up.
Wow. Wow. I always find it interesting to see, different sizes, like when I went to the Dali Museum, some of those huge, huge paintings, and then he's got some that are tiny, and I'm sure I've seen you do some of your work, and some of your stuff could be this small. And I have one of your posters that's the Jim Jones, Jonestown. It's huge. You did, I mean, again, well, how do you choose? I mean, does the material dictate how large, or do you have a preferred size and materials you work with? Talk about
Now
that.
it depends on if I do it for the fun of it and then use it, or someone like writes to me or calls me up and has a specific size in mind. And it also depends on like stuff. Like, let me grab this. I've been doing these for fun and ow, I just ran over my toe.
Oh.
I've been uh, I've been doing.
Send it to me. I'll sell it.
I tried selling a pencil on eBay once.
Hey, Merle Ellen sells his toenails and, boogers and all
No
that
offense
stuff.
to Merle, but who in the hell would buy them?
I know,
I mean,
right?
probably
I
somebody
would.
does. What I was talking about
They
is
do.
like on the size. It depends, and like I've been doing these new things for fun, like between projects, and I sell them. I call them little monsters, and they're like
I love
small.
these. I love these. Yeah, if anybody's interested in these, again, a living legend, you could buy these for what, 20, $40 a pop online on your
Bucks.
Facebook? Yeah, original artwork, drawn by a living legend, hit them up on Facebook, Jeff Gaither. These are amazing. Frameable, perfect.
The last time I did 40 of them in 3 days.
Wow.
And I've got
Oh,
things that are a little bit, just a little bit bigger, and then I sell them for like $30. And why I
ooh,
do it for
that.
fun and profit, but I also do it because a lot of my other artwork is more expensive, and I do it so people that don't have much money can actually own a piece of my artwork. I mean, I don't know
I
how that
always say,
sounds.
no, it makes sense because this is what I've always said. Sometimes when I go to, well, I go to a lot of these conventions, and sometimes I'll see artists selling original art upwards of $200 to $400. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, if they were doing like what you're doing, like these original, and sold them, they would sell more of those small ones at $20 than one big one at 400. Am I right?
Oh yeah. Well,
Because the people come to these conventions with like $20, $40. I mean, they spend money too, but for original art, they're not going to spend, that much. That's the problem.
you do both. You actually do your larger stuff and your smaller stuff. And when I go to shows, I actually just sell buttons. I try to sell a wide range of stuff. And like if kids come by, I usually just give them the small stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I give them
Yes.
I give them a little picture of a clown named Pogo. They love it. I'm like, here's a clown for you.
I was going to show you a clown I just did the other day, which was Pogo, but I did it in the style of the little monsters. But
Oh,
it's just packed up to go out, and I wasn't going to cut it back open.
yeah, or yeah, I mean, another, little monsters are cool too. I mean, serial killers, those always sell too. So somebody else was asking, uh, let's see, which one, the host, I don't know, but oh yeah, we're just talking about Pogo and Gacy, and all that stuff, okay. I think we lost Jeff. The connection must have gone away. I don't know. So until Jeff comes back, Jeff Gaither, definitely check out Jeff's artwork. Amazing artist. This book, I'm not sure if it's still in print any longer, the Supernaut coloring book, but look at some of these images on here. That's the back. So you could see some of these in color, the types of images Jeff Gaither does. I even have he did a poster for the Museum of Death. I have that as well. But when you look at this book, the detail work, Jeff looks like he begins in ink and then colors it in. Hey, I was just showing more of your coloring book. Oh, now you're gone again. Must be a weird connection. I'll keep showing them your artwork until you come back. Actually, Jeff did a set of trading cards, a bunch of his stuff. I'm not sure if he's still selling them, but I agree. Jeff would be, amazing to do some serial killer trading cards, or even like those little monster artworks, some serial killer artworks. But when you look at some of the stuff, again, the detail, look at some of these. Look at this one here. The detail work on this is amazing. And again, this is the Supernaut coloring book. There we go.
Well, hopefully we don't get disconnected this time.
Oh, I don't know what happened. It's all good. I'm glad you're back. Well, but yeah, Eric said that you should do serial killer trading cards. I told him you have a set of trading cards that you've done.
Yeah, they're long sold out.
No, we have cards.
Oh, do we?
We're sold out of the Supernaut. We have card sets. A serial killer card sounds cool.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah, there you go.
The little monsters. I was thinking about doing little killers, and it'd be all.
What happened? I don't know why. Somehow we've got a weird connection here. And yeah, Jeff was just talking about possibly doing little serial killers like he does those little monsters. So I'm not exactly sure why he keeps cutting out, but hopefully he'll be back soon. But again, I'll show you guys some of his artwork here. Some amazing stuff. Here's Murder Junkies artwork that he did. G.G. Allen, obviously, but this was for the Murder Junkies.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, but I was showing him some of your Murder Junkies and the G.G. Allen stuff. Oh, he's gone again. Very weird. I don't know. I wonder if it's your connection, Jeff. This one's great. I'm having to put these, show you guys behind my microphone. Just some amazing artwork. And Jeff also, I believe, does commissions. So if anyone's looking for an artist to do their album artwork or posters or film work, Jeff's available. This one's beautiful. I can't wait to start coloring these. I want like an old style record player like that. Really cool.
I'm back.
Okay.
This time. Here's some other.
Yeah.
This is a shirt I did for Glue Factory.
Oh, that's awesome.
3 heads, and I got one of them sniffing glue.
That's awesome. Didn't you do that car series too?
The what?
Like a series like that with the car with wasn't there something like that with cars that you worked on too, like similar to that design?
Well, basically, I worked for Ed Rolfe for like 5 years.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
Big Daddy Rolfe, and did like comics, cards, parts of shirt designs. And when I say parts of shirt designs, someone else would do the car, and I would do the monster. And if it was like the whole design was a monster, of course I did the whole monster. But the way the deal is, or the way I got the job was R.K. Sloan. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's another artist similar to me. and he had my stuff hanging up in his house, and he was on the phone with Rolf, and Rolf was seen something that was mine and wanted to use it, and basically he called me up and said, "Would I'm Ed Rolf," and talked for a little while. And he said, "Would you like to work for me?" And I'm like, I'm just quiet for a little while. This is like Ed Rolf. It's the guy that I had stickers on my wall and on my door when I was a kid. And I said, hell yeah, I'd like to work for you. And I mean, I was getting paid like, this was in the 80s, and I was getting paid $300-400 a design. And I was getting them like every week for a long, long time. But he would send stuff for my kids, and like a rat fink hat, and told me to put it on my kids so they would grow up better. And he sent me. He was let's see, he was sponsored by Domino's, I think, and he sent me a packet of Domino's coupons. And we wasn't doing really good at the time, so we used these Domino coupons for pizzas for like a fucking month. The guy that brought the pizzas was like, man, I don't know what you're doing, but you got a lot of coupons.
That's hilarious. That's a great story. Yes, rat rods. Yes, I remember that too, because growing up I saw all that too, and it's just so interesting, that everything kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from him. Plus, I've got a lot of jobs after I broke up with him to do. Like, this was Lucky 13 or 33 that I did, and it's basically, it's a dumpster car. A dumpster made into a car, and this one was done about a week and a half ago.
Wow.
And that's influenced
amazing.
by Broth. And then I got some other ones I'm working on. This one is like, I'm actually doing this one for a friend, and I'm still working on it.
Ooh, killer clowns and crazies. Love it.
Killer clowns, yeah. Let's see. Well, this is like a split 7-inch. It's a record that has this record that has 4 bands on it, 4 metal bands, and it's the front of the album cover and then the back. But I do the colors in Photoshop.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. So what's your process like, Jeff? I mean, are you fine with sharing that? Do you kind of sketch and pencil first, then do the black? How do you work?
Basically, I do pencils first, and I do pencils on sometimes on tracing paper, and then I do layers and layers until I get it right. Sometimes I just do it right on the board with pencils. Then I use pen and ink it in and erase everything, of course, so it looks nice. Then I scan it in, and then I color it in using Photoshop. But there's other things too that I do. I do like paintings that, not many people request paintings because it costs a little bit more. They prefer me to do Photoshop because it's faster and not as costly. But I do other things too, sculptures too.
Well, and that's the thing I was mentioning when I was showing your work, some of your work in the Supernaut book, that, you do you do commissions as well?
I do commissions all the time. And my prices ain't as bad as most people think they are. I mean, I had people say, I never did write you because I figured you'd be too expensive, but I'm not that expensive, really.
Yeah, people would be surprised. I mean, it's worth asking, but that's the thing. They think somebody, obviously on your level, that you'd be outside of their price range, but people just ask, Jeff's an artist, and, if he's not busy, I'm sure he'd be, I mean, we're always busy, but we're happy, right, to work with other people.
I'm happy to work with people. I'm happy to talk to people too. I don't mind talking at all.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. We have to learn that, we could talk about stuff. Ooh, what's that? That's cool.
It's one of my sculptures.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I love the cigarette.
And that's
Is there any? What's
that's
that?
sculpted too. That's not a real.
That's awesome. Is there any medium you haven't worked in? I mean, you've worked digitally, you've worked paint, right? Ink, sculpture. What else?
Markers, color pencil,
Wow.
photography. That's all I think of.
Interesting. Interesting. Photography too. Yeah. I mean, amazing stuff. And I'm sure there are people out there now, that are beginning bands or filmmakers or anyone. Like I said, Jeff's available, to do your album covers or your posters or whatever kind of artwork. What do you have like a preference, like projects that are your favorites to do?
I
Or
like doing stuff for metal bands, but my favorite projects are ones where people call me up, say, I've got a project that I have, and basically, this is the title of it, and give me a brief description, very, very, very brief description of what they want, and then let me do my thing. That's the best.
Yep.
And that's when I do my best work.
Yeah. And I agree, because obviously you're the artist and, what I always say is, approach artists with, okay, here's kind of what I thought, and you give them a little nudge and that's it. You should be, if they're coming to you, they should trust you as the artist, and in the end be ecstatic with your artwork. I mean, we've had issues with people, but in the end, I think, the longevity, like, you've been doing this since 70s, 80s.
70s.
Wow.
Well, I've been doing it all my life. I mean, I started out basically like I did stuff in fanzines, and the way I did it is these little bitty fanzines that are like, maybe somewhere under 500 copies or whatever. I would send them a photocopy of my art, like maybe say 5 or 6 copies, and I would ask them if they use it, would they send me a copy of the zine back? And of course, most of them would be happy to do so. And I did that for a long time. And then I noticed that there was reviews in the back of the magazine or the fanzine. It would be reviews of other fanzines. So what I did was when I got that fanzine, I go straight to the back and send more photocopies to all of those fanzines. And it was like a backward pyramid effect. And after a while, people started writing and saying, how much would it cost to do this? And how much would it cost to do that? So it got away from, just sending out free shit. I did that for about 5 or 6 years, just free stuff, totally free. And then it went over to where I was doing, paid jobs, not much, but it was a start to getting there.
And when you started, what was that like? I mean, did you teach yourself? Did you go to school? How did you begin? How did that start?
Well, I was like in school, I basically did nothing that had to do with school. I did more drugs than I did more school. And I mean, I don't suggest anybody to do it my way because it's not the good way. But I we started out like trading art for jobs. Like I'd paint on somebody's wall, and they would give me no other way of saying it, but drugs. And I did, small little things here and there. But basically, one time I did acid, drank Jack Daniels, drank a bunch of beer, smoked pot. I forgot something else. And when everybody else come down, I didn't. I stayed off. I stayed on a trip for like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I don't remember how long it was. But when I finally come down, because I thought that was it. I was going to be that way forever. I mean, I'd go outside and felt trapped in. So when I finally cut back to being normal, I quit smoking cigarettes, drinking beer, doing drugs, and I cut anybody off that did drugs all at once. And I turned all of my attention to art, and that's all I did was draw every day from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. And, eventually I made new friends. But ever since then, basically, I keep saying basically, but it fits. I just withdraw. And to this day, that's what I do. Sometimes I forget that I should take a break to be with my wife. You know what I mean? If it's true. I mean, I'll work, I'll get up and work, and then go like 12 hours working, sit down for a few minutes, and then go back to working, then go to bed. And then if I wake up, I'll start working again. I'm like, work, 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 work. But it don't bother me because that's the way I am. I mean, I have to draw because if I don't draw, my nerves make me nuts. I have real bad anxiety problems. And if I don't draw or do something to keep my mind busy, I'm like nuts. My nerves just drive me nuts. But I'm sort of rambling now.
No, you're fine, believe me. And that I've been feeling it with all this stress with, everything that's going on in the world now. And I understand, believe me. And, in the past, I would think, well, yeah, what's anxiety? Are people just afraid or going out the door? But it's much different. It affects your whole, mentality and physicality sometimes. And it's, and I agree that art is therapeutic. I mean, isn't that interesting how, seeing artists such as yourself and Joe Coleman, who does one hair on a paintbrush, and, so many artists that I know, Vincent Castiglia, who paints in blood, but you're focusing that attention. And it's interesting because, like I told you, I'm getting into coloring lately. And and I'd like to start doing some artworks, but, just the coloring, everything is gone except that little area that I'm coloring. Like I love your coloring book because you've got, so many places where you've got like this great detail where like, people could spend hours on this stuff. And I'm sure, you get lost in it too.
Yeah. I mean, I sometimes forget that I'm here and I think that I'm at the old place. Like, you can see back here a little bit anyways that there's boxes back on this side. Because
Right.
when you was at the house the last time, we had just moved. Now we have just moved again. But yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I know I had the pleasure of sitting in that electric chair and, you had an electric chair there and all kinds of, cool stuff. But again, like personally, I've been, kind of weeding some of my stuff out too, because you've seen that, I'm sure you have a collection, but every time you move, you have so much stuff,
Oh, yeah.
you bring with you, and really in the end, when I thought about it, it's like, okay, all I really need is just my computer and like, I'm sure for you, your station and your pens and your pads and your art. And in the end, that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, it's just you and your tools.
Yeah. All the other stuff is just eye candy.
Exactly. And I haven't gotten around to getting to that book that you loaned me last time I was over, but I can't wait to visit you guys again because, this year, obviously all the conventions, they just canceled another one here in Chicago. And I understand, it's good. It's for people to be safe, but, I kind of miss that because have you gone to many conventions lately? I know in the past you had.
I used to do conventions all the time, but it seems like they don't cater to the artists as much as they used to. I mean, I used to go, they would pay for my hotel room, they pay for my gas, they pay for something for me and Stacy to eat. I mean, and then I'd get free tables. Now you got to pay for all of that. So, and that you have to worry about making all that back. So I rarely do conventions anymore.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing sometimes about some of these conventions, and that's when I decide which ones I'm going to choose because, like you're saying, do you have to invest in it? Then you have to make that money back. And is there travel? Is there hotel? All those issues that, kind of go into it. And usually, obviously, the draw for many of them are these big names, and the people are going to go to the big names because the last Walker Stalker convention, the Walking Dead convention that I went to, well, they canceled those, but I could see why, because, everybody, was going to the celebrities. And then by the time they came to my table, they're like, well, we just spent $400 on 2 autographs. And I'm like, oh,
ridiculous when they got to spin up
yeah.
autographs.
Yeah. Because I heard in the old days when these conventions first started that it would be, you pay to get in and autographs were free. Everything was free. And one time I went to one of these conventions, I remember, and it was Chris Sarandon, the actor from Fright Night and Nightmare Before Christmas. And I was so excited. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm at the same convention he's at, but man, I think I brought Fright Night DVD, but he was charging for everything, like just to take a picture, just for an autograph on the DVD, just, to basically even say hello. It's like, wow, that's insane. I mean, you need $200 just to say hello to the guy.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
people will come up to my, well, when I was doing conventions, they would come up and say, how much is it for an autograph with on this print or whatever? And I'd always say, I'm not an actor. I'm an artist. My autographs are free.
That's what I tell them. I'm like, look, I don't charge for that. It's included. It's included with that. They're like, what? Are you serious? Yeah, of course. I'm an artist and you're buying my work and, you're going to get an autograph and, they love it. But, true crime is in now. But when you were cut off, you had said you thought about making serial killer of the small.
Yeah, I call them little killers.
You should tell me that'd be great. I want the first one if you do one.
You might have missed it because we got the idea from Pogo. That's the one that's probably started it.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw that one that you did. I mean, because I see your page.
Yeah, I didn't post it.
Huh.
I didn't post it.
Oh.
Yeah, well, you'll be able to see it because it was a custom one. Someone actually called me up and wanted it. And my mail's going out, so it's packed up. It's here, but it's packed up. Because I was scrambling to look for it because I was going to show it to you. And then I realized it's in my packages to go out tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Well, hopefully you could send me an image another time, but I'd love to see it. But again, if anyone wants commissions, T-shirts, band posters, album covers, Jeff's the guy.
It's hard to see, though.
Oh, yeah, it is. I could see the outline, though. Yeah, with these webcams, it's kind of hard to see the stuff. Yeah, John says Mark Hamill charges $500. Yeah, I heard one of these Star Wars conventions was going to have Harrison Ford, and he was going to charge like $2,500 or an autograph.
That's ridiculous. Why even go?
That's what I'm saying. Why? You want to meet the fans, right?
That's just ripping a fan off.
Yeah, I agree. What are you working on now, Jeff?
Well, it's just to say that I'm a working artist, so sometimes I work on stuff that's a little bit out of my norm. So I'm working on a thing that's like cops against the peaceful marchers. What's going on now, and it's going to be cops beating the hell out of protesters. The Black Lives Matter, and I'm going to have them tearing each other up. I'm going to have cop cars turned upside down. But I'm trying to get some of my stuff into it too, so it looks like mine. So I'm having the title of it at the bottom on fire. I got Molotov cocktails on both sides, and then I've got cops' heads in the corner, but they're skulls. Wow. And I'm trying to give it my feel. You know what I mean? So it looks like that I did it.
Yeah. Now, is that yours or a commission?
That's a commission. Yeah, I would never do it for myself.
Right. Very interesting. That's just amazing. And do you know what is it going to be used for, like a poster or just a personal image? Or
no, this person actually every once in a while will buy something from me, and he'll come up with the oddest ideal, and he just hangs them in his house.
Huh. Amazing. That's awesome.
I've done barrel paintings for him, the barrel tops. He's bought some of my little monsters for his kids, and he's a good guy. He's funny. I lived next to him in my first house for like 15 years. Never knew him. I moved away, and I finally figured him out. Or he figured me out. He was like, "I'll be damned! I lived right next to you all this time, and I didn't even know it."
That's so weird, isn't it, when things like that happen? That's awesome. But, I mean, that's awesome, and who do you have you know, is there like one of your artworks that's like a fan favorite or your most popular? Because like with me, H.H. Holmes is probably the most popular film, but I didn't know if you had one that fans are like, yeah, that's my favorite.
It's a band called The Accused, and it's Martha's Maddest Stories Ever Told. And there is a story behind that because there's a couple stories behind it. But Combat Records actually ran a contest to see who would get the cover, and they called me up to invite me to join the contest. And he said, I'm going to tell you a secret. It's going to be between you and R.K. Sloan. And I went, oh, that's interesting. So as soon as I got off the phone, this guy didn't know I knew RK. And so I called up Rick and said, Rick, there's this contest going on. He goes, yeah, I know. The guy told me it's going to be between you and me. So why don't we just team up like we normally do on jams, and we'll get the damn thing. And so we did. And the way we did it was I started the art out. I mailed it to him.
Ah, right in the middle of a story. I don't know what happened. We lost Jeff. Well, I'm sure he'll be back. I'm hanging in suspense here on the edge of my seat about the Sloan story. Hopefully he'll be back to finish up his story. But let me show you some more of Jeff's art. Oh, here he is. Okay, so what happened?
Okay, so where was that in the story?
You said that you talked to Sloan. You said, let's team up like we always do.
Oh, okay. And so he lives in Albuquerque, and I live in. I mailed it to him. He drew some on it, and we just mailed it back and forth. And then we sent it in, and of course we got it. We won the contest. But what's really weird, I don't know if it's weird, but it's semi-strange to me, is if you look at the cover, there's a side about that big that's nothing but skin. And on the right side is the same area, is a burnt cross into the skin. And on this side, it was a swastika burnt into the skin. They took the swastika off but left the cross on. To me, a swastika is bad if it's by itself, but if it's on a guy getting his head bit in half, his eyes coming out, there's ghoul and blood everywhere, and a cross and a swastika is burnt into his chest. What is so bad about the swastika? I mean, the whole album cover is like, crazy looking. I just thought that was nuts. But it was the time before computers and stuff, so I had to send the original in, and they lost the original. Oh. And there was going to be a comic book that went with that cover, with that album. So I did a one-page comic book page, and it went, and they mysteriously lost that. So their next album that come out, they took that comic page, blew it up, and used it as the cover for Grinning Like an Undertaker. Never told me, never said nothing, never sent me the artwork back.
Wow. Well, it seems like, our industries are similar, because I get a lot of those stories too, where, I mean, I'm approached by people and they say, well, hey, I want to help you and I'll do this and I'll do all this for you. But then in the end, they want all these things in return. And, that's taught me to make sure up front we talk about what they want out of it, because I did that recently with a producer who said, I'm going to get you this footage. And I said, okay, but before you do that, what do you want out of this? And he told me, he's like, look, I don't want credit. I'm just doing this for you. Okay, good. You tell me from the beginning, we can move on, because you don't say, hey, I'm going to help you, and then later say, well, I want credit in your movie, because I helped you with the trailer of it. It's like, well, no, I worked on this movie for 4 years. You're not getting shit.
That happened in 1986. So a lot of years have passed, and I've just sort of let it slide off my back, because I've now done another shirt for The Accused, and I've done a page for their comic book. It's like a special comic book for the accused. It's a big old thick book, but some things I hold for a long time. But I mean, from 1986 to now, it's long enough. It's time to let go of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, and there are feuds, and we're all artists, and I always say my ego's in check, but we all have feelings too, and react in certain ways. But you're right, over a certain amount of time, I mean, if I'd had any feuds in the past, if I've done wrong, I apologize, or usually the other person will come forward and say, hey, because this happened at a convention, probably about 2 or 3 years ago. Someone was going to be there that they had a falling out with me, not because of anything I did, but they came up to me and said, hey, I don't want bad blood. I apologize if I did anything wrong. I'm like, okay, no problem. Good. We're good. We're just like nothing ever happened, because that's all it takes, right? Just be a man and come forward and say, hey, you know what? I screwed up. Let's be friends. No big deal.
Yeah.
But some people can't. They'll have that ego till the end of time. And you and I know, at least 1 or 2 people that are like that. And it's like, really? I mean, but then everybody talks bad about you and you're getting all the shit talking. It's just not worth it. It's
No.
I mean, you've always been a stand-up guy. I love seeing you and, visiting you and Stacy. And, we always have a great time, and
Thank you.
yeah. So, I mean, as we wrap up, where can people get your work? Where's the best place? Because I know your website isn't your website. It's a poker site.
Poker site. If you want to play poker, go there.
Yeah.
But I'll eventually have a website. But the best place is to either email me or go to Facebook and you just look up Jeff Gaither.
Yes, look up Jeff, JEFF, GAITHER. Look him up on Facebook. Are you on Instagram?
I am, but I should be on it more than I am. But
yeah, there's too many of these apps, I think, and we can only be on so many of them at once, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's that, and there's quite a few of them. But
so Facebook, or what's your email?
It is. I almost forgot my damn email there. Gaither.art@gmail.com.
So GAITHER.art@gmail.com.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So that's Jeff's email. If anyone wants to hit him up, definitely, Facebook, email, check out his work. And if you just type his name, there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of pages that come up. I mean, the living legend. And I hope to see you again soon, and, next year, want to travel again with all these conventions and everything. And, so you're working on your site. That's awesome.
You're always welcome in my house.
Yeah, no, we had a great time. Like I said, when we visited last, we took pictures in your electric chair and, and it's usually too quick. So I'm hoping, to spend more time when we come around next time, or if you come to Chicago or whatever, we just got to wait and see how this all plays out,
Yeah.
But yeah, as we wrap up, check out Jeff Gaither on Facebook, hit him up. Facebook's probably the best. He's on Instagram as well. But if you just, search his work, Jeff Gaither, his stuff's out there in many different forms, sculptures, you've done skateboards too. I mean, you've done pretty much everything. It's been insane. But if you want horror films, someone that's into serial killers, Jeff's your man. He's amazing, and anything, any last shout outs?
I just want to say to people like my fans that I appreciate them always writing and telling me what they think of my art and how much they appreciate, like my time that I've spent on my art and stuff like that. I appreciate them taking the time to support me and my art. I mean, people will say, like you've been saying, legendary and stuff, and that always like blows my mind when I hear that. And I appreciate it. You know what I mean? But to me, I'm just a normal guy that draws. You know what I mean? But I appreciate that.
Well, and that's what I love. You're humble.
You too.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. You're awesome. No, I mean, and that's what I love about you. You're humble. You're a cool guy. And again, I think, those are the people that go the farthest. That are just down to earth and cool and. We could just kick back and, talk about anything, which is awesome. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Check out Jeff Gaither's work. And also next up is Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBT. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Jeff Gaither, thank you. Check out Jeff Gaither's work.
Thank you.